All right. So today we're going to record a webinar that we ran, I guess that was in May of this year. It was an overview on how to use modular on infill housing. And we had enough of you guys reach out to us after to ask if there was a recording. So we're just gonna do that today. Encore and I are gonna do that today for you. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna share my screen and get started. Okay. Before we jump in, my name is Brian Gaudio. I'm the CEO of Module. We're a startup company based in Pittsburgh that's making prefab housing attainable, and we're making it easy for you as a housing provider, whether you're a developer or a builder. We're making it easy for you to build great projects in your neighborhood. My background is that I'm trained as an architect, worked in the industry, worked in the affordable housing industry for years, and moved back to Pittsburgh about 5 years ago to start Module. Ankur, you can go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, hey guys, this is Ankur. I'm the director of construction at Module. I've been with the team for about 4 years now, and I basically work with the factories, with the local permits department to get the project started and all the way to occupancy.
Okay, so today we're going to cover 5 things: who is Module, what is offsite, walk through a case study, the project that I'm sitting in right now, which was a mixed income project, and then go through some tips, things to consider for infill projects. We won't do Q&A today because we're just recording. So Module is started in Pittsburgh, and our goal is to make well-designed housing attainable to the average customer. And we want to make building a great housing product very easy to do for housing providers, whether you're a home builder, a developer, or an investor. Encore and I, we have some other members of our team. Our experience spans construction, civil engineering, architecture, product design. So we've got a lot of different parts of the real estate industry mixed together as part of our team. But we value infill housing. We're really trying to create an attainable product because we think that's what the market needs. Our homes, we believe they should enhance the quality of life for the people living in them, whether that's the homeowner or the renter. They should enhance the quality of life of the people building them, right? If you're a developer, if you're a builder, it should be easy to do this. It shouldn't be a fight. And then our homes should also enhance the communities that surround them, right? Every real estate project is tied to land. And so every time we build, we have to think about not just the product itself, but what's around it and how that influences the city, the neighborhood, et cetera. So if you're curious about our product, you can obviously visit our website, modulhousing.com, but these are a couple shots. You can tell that this is not your grandpa's modular. We're building, a really high quality product, contemporary floor plans and finishes. We do a lot of urban infill products. So you'll notice that our interiors and exteriors probably are similar to some of what you're seeing, in new construction today. We have contemporary design, but I think our exteriors can be contextual to any neighborhood. That's how we think about this. And then in terms of the product type that we're delivering, we're really looking at infill lots. So if you're in an area where there was previously development and now there was a vacant site, that's really what we're after. And we can build a variety of things. In this upper right-hand side, you can see the different types of product, from an ADU all the way up to a 3-story, 6-unit apartment complex, and everything in between. We build a townhome product. So you see there's some attached housing there. So you could build 20 townhomes with us. You could build a duplex with us. Really, we're thinking about what we call missing middle housing as our main product type. And then single story up to 3 stories, 1-bedroom to 4-bedroom units. And again, those are on our website, modulhousing.com. And then you click the model page, you can see all of those and get some floor plans and details. The other thing that's important about our homes as we've designed them, because we do have about 15 standard designs on our website, each of them is incredibly energy efficient, top 1% of energy performance in the country. We do that. Encore will get into that later, but we think that that's where the real estate industry is headed. How do we lower operating costs of our homes? How do we make sure that they are energy efficient to be good for the people living there and good for the planet as well? In terms of working with us, you know, our goal is to help you build a durable, beautiful project in half the time of traditional construction. And so how we work with developers and builders is we handle the offsite portion of the project. So effectively the houses themselves are built in a factory, shipped and delivered and installed on a site. And then we work with your local site contractor or general contractor to make sure that the foundation is prepped, the site work is complete. So developing with Module as opposed to developing the traditional way, you're managing far less sort of subcontractors, consultants. You work with us, we can bring an architect in on the team. We have architects throughout various parts of the country who are Module design partners, and they can stamp a site plan. But we're effectively providing the designs, the engineering, and the house itself. And so you as the developer would be responsible for the site work effectively. But all of this comes down to reducing risk for you, right? That's what we want to do, is reduce risk for you and provide a beautiful product that your occupant is going to love. So who's a good fit to work with us? You know, if you're a developer with 3 or more contiguous lots in a city, it's a great fit. If you're an investor and you have a portfolio of rental properties and you're starting to do new construction, a great fit. Land banks or affordable housing providers that are trying to redevelop neighborhoods or areas of a neighborhood and reduce blight, another great fit to work with us. So those are 3 kind of types of partners that we think we can really add value to. So that's a little bit about Module, a little about who we work with and how we work. In terms of offsite construction, it comes in all shapes and sizes. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with offsite who are watching this, some of you aren't. We think of it as 2-dimensional, prefab, and 3-dimensional. So we primarily work on modular projects. We've done panelized projects before. We do not do manufactured housing. That is not something that we offer. So for those of you who know this, skip ahead. If you don't, I'll go through these 3 typologies. So panelized is 2-dimensional panels that are built in a factory. You can see this project was a project we completed in Pittsburgh where windows and doors were in place in some cases, insulation, and these were flat packed, shipped, and installed with a crane. So in terms of percent complete, 20 to 30%, that 8 should actually be a 3, 20 to 30% complete in the factory. And you're building to IRC. So local building code is going to be your general guide on a project. You jump into 3-dimensional, you have modular construction. And again, that's what our bread and butter is. Again, you're building to local building code. So this is IRC for those of you who are familiar. And the beauty of modular and of panelized is that whatever is done in the factory is inspected at the state level by a third-party inspector. So your local building inspector in whatever city you're in, they do not need to inspect what's completed in the factory because that's done by a certified offsite provider. So we can speed up the development process, speed up the approvals process and inspections process. The mods, which you're seeing lifted by the crane there, can be 60 to 80% complete. We'll get into what that means later. But from a foundation perspective, basement or crawl space, modular does not work with a slab foundation. That's just something to keep in mind. And then finally, manufactured housing is a completely separate building code. So HUD regulates this. And this is when someone might hear the term modular, they might think of actually a manufactured home. completely separate building code. It actually has a chassis built into the house. And so that's really a different type of housing that we don't build. So the benefits, obviously you're going to be able to build faster. That's really one of the main benefits. Is at the same time you're building the foundation, our factory can be building the actual houses themselves. And there's less subcontractors to handle, right? Instead of 20 some subcontractors, you effectively have one super sub, which is the factory that's doing a large component of the project. If you're building in a climate where there's weather delays because of snow or rain, then modular could be a great way to kind of short circuit that, because obviously you're building in a climate protected environment. And then less waste, from a sustainability perspective. We don't have a dumpster. If you look at that video, there's no dumpster there. And that's because when you're building in a factory, they can control the waste and you have much, much less on-site waste. So those are some of the benefits of modular. It's not necessarily cheaper. That's one kind of common misconception, is that it's modular, it's got to be cheaper. We actually don't think that's the case on projects, generally speaking. Black Street. So this is a project, this is where I'm sitting today. This was a project we delivered in 2020. It was 4 units. And there are 3 structures here. So on the left was actually, and this was a mixed income housing project. So the unit on the left was affordable for sale housing sold to an 80% AMI buyer or below. House in the middle was a market rate home. So that house on the left was 2 beds, 1.5 baths. House in the middle, 3 beds, 2.5 baths, market rate housing with off-street parking. And then the house on the right functions as our show home and sales office space. It's actually a duplex. So you can live upstairs and rent the bottom on Airbnb or to, an elderly family member or something like that. So 4-unit project, mixed income in Pittsburgh. And why mixed income is important is, if for those of you who are in the affordable housing world, the previous strategy was, let's build concentrated large public housing towers in particular areas of the city. What that does is it concentrates poverty. And with mixed income, you can provide, a more, I would say more amenities to the affordable buyer, because they might be in a neighborhood that has a better commercial district or just more neighborhood amenities than being in an area that has a concentration of public housing. So that's why we did the project. That's why we think mixed income housing is important. And I think it makes for a healthy neighborhood as well, right? You need teachers and firefighters to be able to live in the same neighborhood as, the doctors or the tech workers, because without that balance, I think the cities become less livable. So in terms of timeline for this project, we acquired one of the parcels in the summer of 2019 and started cleaning it up so you can see what it was. In Pittsburgh, we have a ton of vacant infill sites like this. We've got 30,000 vacant lots. And then we officially broke ground in November. So closed on our financing the project. The redevelopment authority of Pittsburgh was involved. So the mayor actually came to our groundbreaking, which was fun. He got a module t-shirt. Not available on our website for sale right now. But that was great to have the support of the city helping us on this mixed income project. So break ground in November. In February, you'll see on the left, we actually had the mods completed in the factory. So if you look at that photo closely, you can see what we call 60 to 80% complete. So we have flooring is completed in the factory, drywall, doors, cabinets, lighting. A lot of the work is complete in factory, which is really great. What's not complete, as you can see, is countertops and appliances in this case. So that, and then this hole in the ceiling is actually an access panel to connect the 2 boxes together once it comes on site, which you can see on the right here. This is a little video, Ankur, you can kind of talk through the the process. This just has some good footage of the project, generally speaking.
Yeah, so as you guys see on the screen, some footage from the factory. The guy is working on a floor. You guys will kind of see different stations that the factory has. So that's the first station. The structure basically gets built on it. You can see the walls being lifted and kind of being placed on the floor. Again, all the exterior walls and the interior walls get done at this station. What also gets done is the roof, or the ceiling, depending on which floor you're in. But yeah, you can kind of see a roof structure being placed on that house over there. So at that point, the structure is complete. This is basically a shot of the foundations being installed. So we do a superior wall foundation, which is again an off-site built foundation. The biggest advantage is we can do it throughout the year, so we don't have to wait for good weather to pour. This set basically in the video is from February, and it was probably 30 degrees outside. So it's in the middle of winter, and we're still able to do it. This final footage is from when the boxes are being set, or the modules are being set. You can see the roof is pretty much complete as the top box gets lifted and placed on the first box that you can already see under there. We had a crane on site, and we had some traffic management stuff on site. But again, we were able to do this without really blocking the street, which was good and didn't cause a ton of interruptions for the neighbors. Yeah, so the set, essentially what you see on the screen, took us 2 days to do. In total, there were 7 boxes. We have metal roofs on all these houses. And yeah, I think if, roughly we could, set 2 or 3 houses a day.
In terms of on-site finishes, you'll see that siding, this was a hardy lap siding that was completed on site, and then your stairs and stoops, railings and things, those are also done on site after the set. And a couple of interior shots here. Again, we use some really great windows and doors and a good building envelope as well. Ankur, do you want to talk about kind of the time savings?
Yeah, so essentially, like what you guys see on the screen is just a comparison between a traditional stick build and one of our houses. The data we took was from a city website, so just tracking when the permits were taken and when the occupancy was granted. You can kind of see that our project, the one on Black Street, provided a total of 172 days in savings when compared to a project of similar size. Those number of days, you're almost at 6 months essentially of savings. And why that is, and you can kind of see it on this graph, is a lot of the vertical construction is happening while the foundations and excavation on site is going on. So the vertical construction happens in the factory, and that allows us to not have to wait for all the foundations to be done before we start our structure. And you can kind of see how that overlaps and saves us a valuable amount of time. Also, on-site finish work is lower because the boxes come almost 80% complete, like Brian mentioned, from the factory. So obviously the finish work on site takes significantly shorter as well. A box, a module in the factory spends maybe a week and a half, whereas for the same work on site, there might be a month to 45 days worth of work involved. Some benefits of our approach as opposed to site build, in addition to the time saved, is also obviously there would be less project overheads because less stuff is being brought to site, so there's less wastage as well, and then also less disturbance to the neighborhood. We set the whole thing into 2 days, as opposed to stick build project, which might be affecting the neighbors for a longer time. And then at the end of the day, for the for sale developers out there, if we can build quicker, you can sell them quicker, and that's good for the finances. The banks love it. Next slide, Brian. So a couple of things that we keep in mind while we're designing these homes. We build to energy star and energy ready models. Energy efficiency is the core of our design. We also have strategies to incorporate solar into the house. The house is all electric, so it is zero energy ready. You could choose or not to install solar panels on your house once the construction is done. Our building envelope is high performing and durable. You can see that on some of the materials from the images that we showed before, and we'll discuss that further into the conversation as well. Indoor air quality is also a big talking point for us. We build to or install our mechanicals to the EPA's indoor air plus standards, and also make sure we also have a fresh air system in the house, which is continuously recycling air, and we've only gotten good reviews from our from our homeowners who are living in those houses on Black Street. Next slide, Brian. So yeah, we just also want to talk a little bit about some tangible benefits of those upgrades that we have done. Obviously, they're nicer, and there is a bit of from the energy standpoint, they're more energy efficient. But what does that mean? So what are the tangible benefits of those upgrades? So over 30 years, which is a typical mortgage cycle for a house like this, you would see up to $26,000 in savings compared to traditional construction. On an average, in 1 year, there is about 50,000 gallons of water that is saved, which could amount to 2,000 loads of laundry, which is a lot when you think about it. Again, the comfort of the occupant is increased. I think I already spoke about the fresh air system, and there's also protection from exposure to any combustion pollutants. At the end of the day, as a home builder, we get less callbacks, and the homeowner is happy, and that's kind of what we're building here. And this home, actually, the one that Brian's sitting in, is one of the houses on Black Street, and that was rated 51 on the HERS rating. And just to give a brief idea of what the HERS rating is to other folks who may not be aware, is a standard new home in the country is rated 100, and everything else is compared to that standard home. So our home being rated at 51 meant that our home only used 51% of the energy of what a standard home would have used. Next slide, Brian.
So we'll go through a couple of things to consider if you have an infill site that you're looking at, or a piece of land that you're trying to evaluate. A couple of basic sort of first things to consider when you're looking at your project. The site, will that site support modular installation? And so when we think about that, we have to understand that boxes are going to come on a truck, right? So you have to think about the route from the factory to your site. And then once they're on site, there's a lot going on. Like you saw in that video, there's a crane, there's a set crew, there's going to be traffic. So those are important things to consider. And so Encore, let me pop these two sites, and you can just quickly talk through, a good site versus a bad site.
Yeah. So like Brian said, before we go into any site, we have to evaluate that for modular. Not all sites are built equally. So for example, this is a tough site. Like right off the bat, you can see power lines right in the front of the property. For building a modular house, yes, you can sometimes lift over power lines, but something like this, which towers high, is hard. is hard to get around. Something else on this site that you can see is it slopes to the back significantly. Now there is going to be a building in that corner before we start construction, so it's also going to be an access issue if we have to access from the back. But essentially, the drop from the front to the back of the property is about 30 to 40 feet, and such kind of a drop, it will be hard for us to get the crane and the truck to lift those boxes and place them on the foundations. And that's why this site is particularly challenging. Now, if this was a flat site, the power line in the front would still be a slight issue, but you could still go to the back and access the site from the back, but the slope just makes it worse. The second site would be what we consider a good site. So this is the site on Black Street that the houses that we were talking about were built on. So you can see no power lines. It's a corner lot. You have corner access. Corner access is not necessary, but it's obviously helpful because it gives you another way to access the site. We actually had a construction entrance through the back. Now this site, you can see it still has a significant slope, but it's mostly restricted to the back. In the front of the site, you have a gradual slope, so that's a little bit easier to work around. And also in terms of in terms of the flat site, like we said, the flat sites are obviously better, but something like this, which is slight slope, but there is also access from the back, could be easily built on.
And it was.
Yeah, and yeah, that's what it looks like right now.
View, just so you guys can get a feel for the streetscape here. Okay. Talking a little bit about how the process works. So in terms of design and permitting, on a standard project, you have an architect on board, and they do all the drawings from scratch, and you submit to the permit department, and that's your standard process. On Modular, it's slightly different because the modules are being built not on site, but in a different jurisdiction, could be 200 miles away. And that is why most of the modular factories are regulated by the state. So how this typically works is we have some standard concept plans. You guys can go on our website and you look up all the standard plans that we have. So we have a stage where we do all the concept plans. These the information that goes into these plans we've accumulated over the past 2-3 years. So our team has a good understanding of how the factory works. So that's where we start. Once you as the customer signs off on the concept plans or picks a concept plan, we go to the next step, which is called the manufacturing plan. The manufacturing plan essentially just gives the manufacturer or the factory the ability to draw our concept plan in a way that the state permit guys would understand, or the state would understand, because that's essentially who's stamping the drawings. They also check for any sort of issues with the code or issues with the assembly line that might occur. And so it's a pretty small process, or a small timeline for any of our standard plans, because we kind of have already gone through those exercises. So manufacturing plan would be the next step. So once we sign off on the manufacturing plans, we would go to what is called a permit set. Now, permit set would have all the information that would be needed by the state and the third parties to stamp those drawings. Once we have the state approved drawings, we then submit it to the city like any other project. Any accessory structures, porches, garages, decks that are done on site, those are added as supplements to this permit set from the factory. We will work with our architect partners or a local architect that you might already be working with to incorporate all those accessory structures into one permit set and then submit it to the city. Finally, once you get permits, you're ready to begin. You place deposits with us. The next step would be shop drawings, which is essentially what exactly gets built. These shop drawings
will form as a directive for the people in the factory when they're building those houses, and will also serve as built drawings for when the houses are delivered. And this will be the set that you will own as the homeowner. So yeah, a couple of small line items that we want to discuss about what things we do and what things are the developer or the general contractor's responsibility. So all of the design and specs of our base units are all from us, and obviously we have the construction estimates to go with it. Like I said, we would also manage the state and help with the city permit process. And in terms of construction, we would be delivering and setting the boxes, and pretty much everything above the foundations could be worked into module responsibility. Again, some of the things like siding might be more site specific, so we leave that on the developer or the local GC to finish, but everything apart from that is finished by us. So the other some things that you as the developer or GC might have to do is work on the site plan, get zoning approvals, work with us on the city permits, and do all your excavation and site work.
In this role, and this is a very basic roles and responsibilities chart, but for each project, we develop a very detailed set so that the GC, so we can help you as the developer or builder, make sure you're getting the right price from your GC on the remaining items to complete. But what's really great about using modular as a delivery method is that you get those pricing estimates much more quickly if you use one of our standard designs than if you were to go from scratch and start with an architect. So you can get to whether or not a project pencils much faster with us. So that's all we have to share today, but we are taking orders. We're ready to go. We're based in Pittsburgh, but we're serving, the Midwest, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic. So if you've got a project, if you have a piece of land that you have under agreement or own outright, we'd love to talk to you about it. There's a page on our website. You just click housing providers, and that gives you kind of an overview of the process. And on that page, you can hit get started, and that you submit a form, and that's the official way to start the process with us. You can also reach out via phone. We have our number here listed. So if you've got a project, talk to us. We're ready. And we'd love to help you out. And then finally, if you are what we call a delivery partner, if you're an architect, if you're a GC or a modular factory, reach out to us. Let's chat. We can, include you as one of our preferred partners on a project. And then finally, follow us. We're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, at Module Housing. And then sign up for our newsletter. We have every month we send out some interesting content about some of the projects we're delivering and some other things in the industry. So we want to hear from you. We're ready to go, and we're very excited to help you guys. So with that said, I think that's all, but reach out on our website, and we hope you guys enjoy this webinar, and we will have some other in-person webinars happening throughout, live webinars happening throughout 2021. So check back on our social channels for that. And that's all we've got for you guys today. So thanks for joining us.